are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I am Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And Landon, we are getting ready for the Cowboys Week 13 game against the Saints. But before we preview that game and get into all of the news from Tuesday and Wednesday, how are you doing today, sir?
Good. You know, it's yesterday we talked about how the news comes fast and furious. And after we got off the podcast, it certainly continued to come fast and furious as we had three pretty major pieces of news break in the last 24 hours. So we definitely got to talk about some of that stuff. And then I'm excited to talk about looking forward to another game and just kind of try to put the last two games behind us. Honestly.
Yeah, we've got some good, bad, and some ugly news we need to talk about for the Cowboys. Let's talk about the good news first. Amari Cooper. Yeah. Amari Cooper activated off the COVID-19 list. We've got some reports that he will travel with the team on Thursday. Now, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play, but my guess is if he is traveling,
he's
got a pretty good idea he's going to play, right? My assumption is they want to see how he warms up, how his conditioning looks, and if everything goes well, he's going to be active and will play. How many snaps he plays, who knows? They might try to ease him in, but sounds like there's a really good chance that Amari Cooper is playing this week.
Yeah, and I mean, we can all have our own feelings about that and about whether someone who was reportedly coughing yesterday in the building should necessarily be traveling with the team. But they have medical experts on these teams. They test these guys.
They're wearing a mask.
They'll be wearing a mask, and hopefully everyone understands what's going on there. So. And the thing I worry about is at this point the conditioning. And just because it sounded like he got pretty sick. And it definitely can take some of the wind out of you. I think we kind of saw that with Ezekiel Elliott, who had a pretty big case last year. So the hope is that he's able to kind of come in and give you a couple of good snaps, hopefully on some key downs, and be a productive, useful player. But I don't know that we should go into the game expecting full strength Amari Cooper just because he's cleared off of the COVID list and he hasn't played in 2 weeks.
I think the Cowboys need him for a couple different reasons. Obviously, because this is a really good Saints secondary. But on top of that, Cedric Wilson, I don't think is going to play. He's been dealing with an ankle injury, missed the last 2 days of practice. And if you don't have Amari, all of a sudden, like Noah Brown and Malik Turner and Semi Fehoko have big roles in this team. If you at least have Amari, and let's say he's basically functioning as your third receiver, you could do some things where he's only playing on passing downs. You can have Noah Brown come in and do the first and second down stuff and block. I think you can be fine with with the top three receivers and Noah Brown as your top four. I think they'll be okay.
And again, this is a better situation than we got versus Kansas City. I'm trying to remember if it was the games are starting to blend in together. Where Cooper practiced all week and we got a game plan involving Cooper all week. And then suddenly he was taken away from us on the.
CeeDee Lamb was lots at halftime, right?
Yeah, and then CeeDee Lamb was lost at halftime. So, I think it wasn't Kansas City, was it? It was the week before that.
God, that was Kansas City. Yeah,
was it? Okay. So it's just that one of those things where you haven't had him all week, so it's a little bit easier to kind of fold him into the game plan because he knows the routes or whatever. You can put him out there in certain situations. You haven't necessarily been game planning with a reliance on him being there. Yep. So I think that's the good thing here is that they've kind of been preparing all week without him. So him coming in late is an added bonus that it's easy to kind of fold him in without disrupting too much of your game plan.
I agree. I don't think he's going to be the every down starter that we saw before COVID, but 35 snaps seems like the right number, assuming that he can go. All right. Bad news. Brent Urban, the Cowboys defensive tackle, who has been on the injured reserve list with a tricep injury, officially had surgery. I believe it was yesterday, according to his wife on Twitter, which means he'll be out for the rest of the season. How big of a loss is that for Dallas?
I mean, I think it's a noticeable loss. I mean, I think it's tough for it's tough for a lot of people to kind of notice the impact that Brent Urban has, down to down. But he was a huge part of kind of muddying up the middle, taking on double teams, and just kind of being an immovable force, an immovable body in the middle of our defense that kind of slowed down the run. And I think the D struggled, specifically 2 weeks ago, but I think even recently, kind of stopping the run.
Yeah.
I think that the the emergence of Taysom Hill in the last game kind of helped us mitigate some of that. We'll talk about more on that in a minute. But I think that he was really starting. He being Brent Urban was really starting to come on in his last few games and really start to establish himself as a important piece of that run defense. I don't know if there's like a replacement that's available on the team or on the street that's like a 1-to-1 replacement for what Urban does, but I'm hopeful he gets healthy soon and comes back next year ready to go. The Cowboys are gonna have to find a way to kind of go on for the rest of the year without him.
Yeah, I believe he signed a 1-year deal with the Cowboys, but my guess is they'd like to have him back, especially if it's going to be close to the veteran minimum. He gives you at least a fairly high floor as to what they want to do. So I do expect him back. In this game, it's going to be a lot of Osa Odighizuwa, Carlos Watkins, probably some of your guy, Justin Hamilton. Maybe we even see Bohanna a little bit in this game. We will not see Taysom Hill in this one, Landon, as he's been suspended by the NFL now by 1 game after Derek Brooks, former linebacker for the Buccaneers, held the appeal. They did reduce the suspension from 2 games to 1 game, which I can live with. Right, I think a 1-game suspension makes a lot more sense than a 2-game one. Is it still a little harsh? Probably, but it does make a lot more sense. 2 games was just far too much. But any thoughts in the NFL reducing this sentence?
They went from outrageously ridiculous to just ridiculous.
Hold on. Did it almost feel like that they did a 2-game suspension on purpose so they could reduce it down to 1 and say like, hey, we're trying to accommodate you guys?
And again, like, why did they? If they sure came up with that solution pretty fast. And the idea usually with appealing suspensions is that you get to play the next game, and that whatever the ruling is would apply to the following week. They had that loaded up pretty quickly. It's kind of crazy that once the penalty got away from 2 Philadelphia Eagles, it was cut by 50%. That's just an odd thing I'd like to point out. I just think, look, again, a lot of this is being tongue in cheek. Do I really think that there's some sort of NFL conspiracy here? They're
just incompetent. But it's inconsistent. That's really what it is.
That's what it is exactly. Is that there's no consistency. It's complete incompetence. There's no the NFL tries to conduct business like it's an authority on anything. It's a joke.
There's no rhyme or reason why guys get fined certain amounts and suspended certain. It's ridiculous. But
it's just completely arbitrary.
They will not have Taysom Hill this week. Obviously, that hurts with Neville Gallimore still out. However, there's a chance that in week 14 when the Cowboys play Washington, they'll get back both Taysom Hill and Neville Gallimore and maybe Randy Gregory. So you might be getting almost a full starting defensive line coming back this week. That will be very, very helpful. All right. Let's preview this game, Landon. But before we do that, we should tell you guys about BetOnline. It remains your number 1 spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. Let's stick with the Cowboys defense against the Saints offense. Sean Payton playing it very coy, not naming Taysom Hill the starter, but basically he is. How do you think the Cowboys defense with Demarcus Lawrence back in the lineup, hopefully, will fare?
Yeah, I mean you really are hopeful there because I do think that it's going to be a big run game. Whether that's including using Taysom Hill as a runner as well. Obviously, that he has a lot of ability there. Kind of how he got his start in general, playing kind of a jack of all trades role for for New Orleans. And they clearly have made a switch to Taysom Hill with the idea that, okay, the conventional offense with Simeon isn't working. I thought he played admirably to a large degree,
He's a
but
fine
I think,
backup, right?
yeah, exactly. He's a fine backup. I think that they realized that if they wanted to do anything this year, that they really needed to find a way to inject some variance into this offense, because it just had become very stale. And I think the idea is that they believe that they can become a thorn in a lot of teams' sides by having sort of an unconventional, difficult to prepare for offense that's led by Peyton and obviously now Taysom Hill. That is, like I said, difficult to prepare for. Kind of a unique one-off situation. And that they can catch some of these teams off guard, and a lot of that's buoyed by the fact that they're hoping to have a strong running attack at the core of it, right? So they can keep the other teams' offenses opportunities low. They have a very solid defense, so playing a strong run game with a solid defense, and then mixing in some unconventional elements to kind of create splash plays. That's a pretty good recipe for trying to win a football game when you're dealing with a backup quarterback. And I think that's ultimately what they're going to try to do. They've gotten a little bit better play from their wide receivers than I think that they even expected. But I do think that this is a team that, talent-wise, especially on the not just especially on the offense, but is really found a lot on the trenches to a large degree. Not as much on the outside. You see one and a half really talented running backs probably.
Yeah.
And then a quarterback who, in Taysom Hill, like I said, he is basically a trick quarterback in some sense. So he's not necessarily a threat as much as a traditional role, kind of in a drop back passing role. But look out for bootlegs, look out for trick plays, look out for wildcat, look out for all of the stuff that teams can do to kind of mix things up to get their athletic quarterbacks in a position to make plays.
I will say this. I think if the Saints were healthy, I think they could actually get by with Taysom Hill and be a fairly good offense. Like if they had Michael Thomas and they had Adam Troutman and they had a healthy offensive line, I think they have enough weapons to really do some damage. Unfortunately, they're not healthy, and it's going to be awfully hard for them to score points in this game. So let's just go through their injuries. Now, some of this is up in the air because we're recording this on Wednesday. The Saints have not had their official stuff come out yet, but Teron Armstead, the Pro Bowl left tackle, has not practiced this week. You would assume he probably doesn't play. Ryan Ramczyk, they're all pro right tackle, and I think their best offensive lineman. He was limited on Monday, did not practice on Tuesday with a knee injury. He's trending towards not playing, and that's certainly a problem. They're already missing one of their guards in Andres Pete, who's on the injured reserve list. So that's three starters, all three who are high quality, that might not play in this game. Obviously, no Michael Thomas. Adam Troutman, their starting tight end, got hurt against Buffalo. He's on the injured reserve list. And we'll see about Alvin Kamara. Even if he plays, I would have to assume the workload is not going to be as big as usual. So Sean Payton knows that this offense is compromised. So I think they are going to do some crazy stuff to try to generate points. Double reverses, trick passes. I mean, anything they can do to move the ball, I think it's going to be available to them. So in one hand, it makes them easier to defend because they just don't have the talent. Yeah. But on the other end,
dangerous.
It's Sean Payton, right? He's going to be wild and crazy in this game.
Dangerous. It's a cornered wild animal. And the difference here is that Sean Payton has this stuff in his playbook. This isn't stuff that he's needing to like draw up on the back of a sheet just because Taysom Hill's, the quarterback this week. Payton has got this stuff in his playbook already, the double reverses, the reverse passes. I mean, he was doing that stuff when Drew Brees was still his quarterback, for God's sakes. Yeah. And so now you think he's not going to pull out a ton of that stuff now that he doesn't have Drew Brees? So I think what this commitment to Hill means to me, I think part of it is that, if I'm not mistaken, Simeon is dealing with some injury stuff too, right?
Yeah, I think he'll be available, but
my
guess
is kind of banged up too.
We should also mention about this with Taysom Hill. The reason why he has not played over the last month is he's dealing with plantar fasciitis. So they didn't announce him the starter yet because they wanted to see how he was dealing with the injury during practice and stuff. So there's a chance that even he is compromised a little bit. Maybe we don't see as much running from him, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that if you're making this switch to Hill, simply because and not to get fully into the Sean Payton and Taysom Hill New Orleans Saints show, but if you go back and look, like they made a conscious effort when Winston went down that they were not going to make Taysom Hill their backup quarterback. They wanted to kind of keep him in that role. And I think about it the way I think about Tony Pollard, right? Like if Ezekiel Elliott was hurt full time, I don't know that maybe now Tony Pollard.
Maybe now. I think last year you would have been right. Right. They
last year,
keep him that 15 touch role.
Exactly. Like I think that's kind of how they view Taysom Hill, is that they like him as a change-up guy. And if the main quarterback got hurt, they wanted a backup quarterback to come in and run the offense for the most part and keep Hill's role the same as it was. I think at this point now there's a sense of desperation that we just discussed, and they're probably putting it all on the line if Hill is going to be out there playing. So I would be shocked if they put out Taysom Hill out there and then ran just kind of a conventional Saints offense the full game. That would be rather surprising. I think Sean Payton is one of the best at understanding how to win individual games and what's necessary to win those games. And I think he will look at the situation, especially now that Cooper is potentially playing for the Cowboys, and think, we got to score a bunch of points. And the only way to do that with Taysom Hill at quarterback is probably to throw a bunch of tricks out there, to do whatever we can to get our guys open, because we can't necessarily rely on Taysom Hill to make, big time throw to keep up with Dak Prescott.
All right. So question for you about the Cowboys defense. In this game, do you play a lot of cover one and basically dare the Saints to try to throw the ball down the field? Do you play cover two and let them just take on everything underneath and prevent the big plays? What are you doing in this game? Yeah,
I mean, I don't know that you need to play a ton of man, honestly. I mean, you can. I mean, because the Cowboys enjoy playing a lot of man, but I think that, with the fear really being about, kind of being abused in the run game, I would consider kind of going back to a more traditional cover one, cover three, and daring Taysom Hill to beat you with these wide receivers.
I also think you want your corners looking at the ball, because they're going to dump the ball off. They're going to dump the ball off to running backs, and you want guys to be able to tackle if Taysom Hill gets outside of the tackle box, right?
Yeah, any of these guys. I mean, that's the thing, is that the way that they're going to get big plays is by splash yak, right? Like by getting the ball in their hands and then creating after the catch. Obviously, especially with that running back duo. So, I think anything that's keeping the eyes, towards the line of scrimmage, just because, look, where's the most immediate threat? The most immediate threat is not in Taysom Hill necessarily shredding you on the back end. If that starts to happen, then you can make adjustments. But I think, to slow down the Saints offense, especially, again, Hill's hurt. He's got plantar fasciitis. So I think if you keep it all in front of you, they're going to have a really hard time kind of continually producing first downs if they can't hit on a whole bunch of these trick plays.
The key to this game for the Cowboys is getting into 3rd and long. If you get this team into 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, I think you're going to be fine. Now, if the Saints are constantly in 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2, and they can run quarterback sneaks and they can run just up the middle with Mark Ingram, you're going to have some problems stopping this offense. Like, I could see some long drives, but I just don't think Taysom Hill is going to consistently convert on 3rd and long. And when he does, that's great. Good for him. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, and again, it's a bad combination. Much like for the Cowboys, how it was for the Cowboys, the injury report is a bad match for the way that they want to play, right? Like potentially not having both of those starting tackles in a game where you want to lean on people, and already not having Andrews Pete in there. I mean, that's like for the Cowboys, not having Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and La'el Collins, or whoever you want to put as your favorite right tackle. It's a pretty huge loss for that team that, again, wants to lean on the run since they don't quite have the horses to be a threat as a passing team.
It's like Dallas losing their top 2 receivers in a game where they need to score a lot of points, right? It's very, very similar. All right, I want to talk about the Cowboys offense against the Saints defense. But before we do that, let's tell you guys about Built Bar. You know Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors, just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar. with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK to get 10% off your next box at BuiltBar.com.
Can I add one more thing real quick before we move on to offense? I think we need to talk about how important and how great it is that Demarcus Lawrence is potentially back for this game, because I think, it's a huge impact, especially if these tackles aren't playing. It's going to be a huge mismatch for in the advantage of the Cowboys. It's kind of been a afterthought with all the other crazy stuff that's happened this week, but make no mistake, the Cowboys getting potentially their best, maybe their second best, depending on how great Parsons is, defensive player back after almost the entire season of missing him is a huge boost to this defense.
Yeah, right now, assuming Armstead and Ramczyk don't play, it's going to be Jordan Mills at left tackle. You might remember him. He was on the Cowboys practice squad for a little bit. And James Hurst, a former guard from the Ravens, who's actually played okay at right tackle this year. But I think Armstead and Ramczyk are the best tackle combination in the league when they're healthy.
I agree.
So it's unfortunate that we won't be able to see those guys. But all right, Cowboys offense against the Saints defense. Saints defense is good. They've got a lot of talent. They're really well coached. Now they are missing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who is a really good slot corner, super physical. But even with the Cowboys being fairly healthy on offense, they're not going to have an easy time moving the ball up and down the field in this unit. How do you think they're going to perform here?
It's going to be interesting to see, because I have to imagine that we'll see some cover 2 shell stuff, just because that is something that they're comfortable playing, and it's a methodology that has been successful against a lot of starting quarterbacks, and obviously I guess against the Cowboys in one of those games that they had previously lost. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they start. I think it's concerning that we hear terms like full load with Zeke when he's dealing with injury issues like that, because I think that they are going to need to run the football a little bit. But I do think that they need to find a way to give a heavier portion to Pollard this week, simply because, Zeke is doing what he can, but he's still struggling with his knee injury. And I think that it's going to be a great opportunity for the Cowboys to get some big plays against the second level. Demario Davis is a heck of a linebacker.
He's amazing, incredible.
There's just no way around that. But Quan Alexander is not the Quan Alexander that anybody remembers from any point other than the last few years in New Orleans or last few years in Tampa. So he is someone that can be exploited on that second level. But I think the Cowboys have got to find a way to create mismatches. It's the thing that really helps, I think, with the Cowboys this week is if you get Cooper back, if he can play some snaps, that gives you the ability to finally kind of take advantage of that third corner, right? And I think in this case, it's whoever's playing the slot, which I think is probably PJ Williams, right? And then Wilson.
I mean, it's been PJ Williams, and he's really played a lot of safety this year. But yeah, it's PJ.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Lattimore. I wouldn't be surprised if Lattimore was following somebody into the slot if that's the case.
So here's my thought. My wondering is Dallas basically going to use Amari Cooper as a decoy in this game? Because in the last meeting in 2019, Lattimore followed Amari. So is Dallas going to basically be like, hey, Amari, go out to the outside. Just run your routes.
Go stand over there.
let's let CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup cook against the other guys. So the other corner is Paulson Adebo, who's made some plays this year. He's very much in the mold of Trevon Diggs, where he's really aggressive. He's going to sit on some routes, but you can get him a lot. So maybe this is a game where it's great that Amari is back, but he's really just being a decoy so they can abuse everybody else.
And honestly, that's how I view it, right? Is that, okay, you two guys cover our two top guys. Now let's see what Michael Gallup can do against Paulson Adebo, which I think that is a very bad matchup for the Saints because, Adebo is going to sit on the short stuff. He's going to be a physical player at the line of scrimmage. But I'm just based on what I remember watching him at Stanford and seeing a few Saints games this year, Gallup is the kind of player that he will struggle with because he'll be physical at the point of catch down the field. He's faster than Adebo. He can get behind him. He's savvy. So I think that's a matchup that the Cowboys should take advantage of. Not that Adebo is a bad player. I just think that it's a specifically bad matchup for him to go against Michael Gallup.
The other corner that they're going to use some in the slot is Bradley Roby, who's coming back from injury. He's been really up and down over the last couple of years. I think CeeDee Lamb would do well there, especially because Roby doesn't really tackle all that well. The Saints defense, I'm just going to say this again. They're good. They're going to make life hard on the Cowboys offense. This is not going to be a game where the Cowboys, walk the ball up and down the field against them. But the Bills didn't do that last week either. They forced some turnovers. They made them work for all their points. I think it's going to be the same thing here. Like if the Cowboys score 27 points in this game, they're going to earn it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's going to be a difficult sledding. You're playing in New Orleans, which is always a difficult place to play. So I think, you
got Brad Rodgers officiating the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's we haven't even talked about the matchup with the refs yet.
We should do that as our fourth.
We should do that as a third segment, right? Yeah, it's going to be tough sledding. I think it's not going to be a high scoring game. I don't think
no.
across either team. So I think points are going to be at a premium. In my mind, the Cowboys, especially with the way that the injury reports look right now, look to have the advantage a little bit. But I don't think this is going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. The Cowboys are still reeling. The Saints are reeling. Both of these teams are. I mean, I hate to use the phrase again, are both cornered wild animals. So anything can happen. These teams are both really dangerous right now and both pissed off about their current scenarios. So it'll be interesting to see how it all hashes out on Thursday.
I do want to point people out that the Saints dominated the Buccaneers in New Orleans. Like they can go crazy on defense. Like their defense is just really good. They can win this game by themselves. And that's what you have to be careful of here for the Cowboys. Offense is the Saints offense probably is not going to score. They're probably not going to score a ton of points. So you don't need to be overly aggressive on offense, right? You don't need to be taking chances when the plays aren't there, because that's how this game is going to flip. If you kind of just play your game, throw it to the open guy, play safe, this is probably going to be a game that you win in the fourth quarter. It'll be close, but it'll probably be one that you win. If you start getting outside of your game plan, that's where trouble could happen.
I think both teams are going to, in order to win, they're going to need to be methodical on driving the football down the field. It's not going to be a bunch of big plays. I just don't think, because, well, on the Saints side, they don't necessarily have the players as much to consistently produce big plays like that. And for the Cowboys, they're facing a very difficult defense. Yep. I think right now I have a little bit more trust in the Cowboys offense to consistently drive the ball down the field and get points at the end than I do the Saints as they're currently created right now.
We also should mention again, no Mike McCarthy in this game. It's been a really weird practice week for the Cowboys. They have not been allowed in the weight room all week. They've lost some offensive line coaches due to COVID. That stuff matters. And I know it might seem like it doesn't matter. And some people kind of make fun of Mike McCarthy for stuff that he does on the sidelines, but that kind of stuff matters when your entire week is disrupted. We'll see it. Do you want to make a prediction on this game or no?
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking the Cowboys. I mean, I think, like I said, it's a very difficult game for both teams. Honestly, both teams have got a lot of stuff working against them. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that actually gives me a little bit of hope, because it's not just the Cowboys that are dealing with, COVID, and suspensions, and injuries. I mean, the Saints are dealing with injuries too. The Saints are dealing with setbacks too. So, I just think that as it stands right now, based on what we've seen in the practice reports, the Cowboys are the more talented of the two teams, and I think clearly at this point. But obviously there are a lot of things that are going to make this a close game. All the things we mentioned, playing in New Orleans, Sean Payton, all that stuff, high variance offense, all those things are in play. I just think that if we were to simulate out these games 100 times, I think the Cowboys would win 65 times. So I just have more trust in our offense to drive the ball and score points than I do New Orleans.
Yeah, we really need a win this week. So I'm picking the Saints to win on the road. Or excuse me, at home, 4-point underdogs. I think that team's going to be fired up. I think it's going to be just a weird game. So I'm picking the Saints. You're welcome.
I hope it works. I do.
All right. That is it for today's show. Tomorrow we'll do a crossover show with Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints. Make sure you're listening to his show for all the latest stuff with the New Orleans Saints. We'll be back here on late Thursday, Friday for a recap. And then, Landon, we get to go back to a regular schedule of games on Sunday afternoon. This is fantastic. So
thank God. This is ridiculous.
Looking forward to that. You can follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher, and we'll see you next time.